forth creative and fruitful ideas that would further your kingdom and in this world and the world to come. Heavenly Father, I pray that someone will also be blessed by the encounter today. In Jesus' name I pray, amen and amen.
Amen. All right, so we just want to say welcome to everyone that is here. We thank you guys for coming out today, for taking an interest, for supporting us in this venture. So we say welcome to BYOB, Be Your Own Boss.
Yes, let's not bring your own blanket or bottle or anything like that. This is be your own boss, right? So
be
yes,
your own boss, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is an initiative coming out of the Tacuma district, specifically out of the Office of Youth Training and Employment. We saw that there was a need where, we saw many persons who are interested in these times in a second source of income, in, getting away from the mundane 8 to 4, 9 to 5, whatever hours they work, even maybe having a hobby and wanting to turn it into something profitable. And if most persons are like me, I have zero business sense, so I would be going in blind if I wanted to start my own business. We thought that it would be really helpful if we assisted persons who would like to become entrepreneurs to not going blind, to not step into the water and drown, but to have a little lifeline, to have some knowledge, so that when they do step out, when they do take that step, they are equipped to have a successful business.
So that's why we have brought a group of persons starting off today with the finance aspect and the legal aspect. And these persons definitely are gifted, talented, and skilled with such and have the knowledge for this area. So those of you who might, as Larissa would have said, want to start your own business or just have this weird, crazy idea that no one seems to be taking you on, I think these are your people, right? So if you have, get a piece of paper or get a book or something, get a pen, get a pencil, you're going to be writing lots of notes. But you can start off with, this is my first lesson here. So you start off by drawing a box, and then you spell the word think right at the side of the box, and that simplifies or symbols thinking outside the box, right? And that is what we want you here to experience in this session here today. We ought to think outside of the box, especially in these COVID times, to have those creative juices flowing, and so you, your family, your community could benefit from these things going forward, right? Larissa, you have anything else to share before the host take over for today?
I actually do not. I'm super excited to get into the different sessions.
I'm pretty amped as well. I'm seeing persons flowing in, and it's a joy, right? All right, so I guess that Mrs. Judith McLeod, she would be taking it over now.
Yes, so we'll go straight on over to our host, Miss Judith McLeod James.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am all excited about this whole month's activities, to be quite honest. Looking at the flyer, be your own boss. During the COVID, I know a lot of persons would have tapped into very new and unused talents and skills that they would have had hidden away, or didn't know they had existed had it not been for COVID. So today, as we go into these lectures for today, I pray that you would indeed embrace it all right, and learn to be your own boss. We have a really nice setup for you today. We are looking at the legalities and financing today. However, before we get to our first presenter, I want us to know that everyone would be muted. So if you have a question, I want you to put it in the chat as we go along. Think about it. pay attention, and I would be monitoring the chat for questions as we go, so that I can ask on your behalf. All right. Again, I'm super talented because I know a number of other groups have been given lectures of this kind, because a lot of businesses have been started up during this period. So again, why not us? Why not us? All right. So our first presenter today is Mrs. Fanella Francis. And Fanella is, most of us would know, Fanella is a mom, two beautiful children, a boy and a girl, and she's a Christian above everything else. Beside a wife and a mother, she's a Christian all above all. Also, she's an attorney at law. So she comes with a lot of legal information for us today. All right. She's a graduate of Andrews University, where she did her MBA, and she has over 10 years experience. If I'm not mistaken, I think she has her own little business too going on, right? So again, she has been managing and doing well. All right. She is an avid church member. She is a uniform person. You would have seen her all around. So our first presenter today comes with a wealth of information. I turn it over at this point in time to Mrs. Fanella Francis. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Judith, and thank you to the Tacuma District for inviting me to present today. I do hope that the presentation will be exciting and interesting, and that those who are here will learn something from it. I am going to be sharing my screen now. It is a PowerPoint presentation, so just hold for me to do the screen share. All right, so our topic today is, which business model should I choose, and what business model would then be right for me? So as we go through, feel free to ask your questions. Judith, if you find that a question is burning or it's relevant to the particular part of the presentation, feel free to stop me and I'll be happy to answer it at that point. All right. So there are obviously most people would have gone through this if you've done at least an introductory business class, which is, there are four main types of business structures. That's the sole proprietorship, the partnership, the corporation, and the limited liability company, which in Trinidad would be like an LTD, and in the US it's normally looked at as an LLC. So where you see Go Pool Brothers Limited or something like that, that's a limited liability company. And sole partnerships normally have a name that doesn't have that, or you'll see that it goes by the person's name. All right, so the two that I'm going to be focusing on heavily today are the sole proprietorship and the partnership, because I think that for most young people, that is generally where you would first look to start your business. So a sole proprietorship is a business that is owned by a single individual, where the business owner is personally responsible for all of the debts incurred in the business, and basically the business is the individual. Many professionals choose to register as a sole proprietor because it is easiest to manage and it is the fastest to accomplish. So when I say the business is the individual, what I mean is, if a sole proprietor were to get into a contract with another person or an organization, you'd find that that contract would say something like Fanella Francis. So Tacuma District and Fanella Francis are entering into a contract, or it will say Fanella Francis trading as Girls United. So that's what you'd always see, because the business and the person are one and the same. What are the advantages of being in a sole proprietorship? There is greater flexibility of management. There are fewer legal controls. There are fewer taxes because you're paying taxes as an individual. It is easy to manage. It is fast decision making. And well, we said this before, you're basically paying your regular taxes. All right. So when we talk about control, what do we mean? Essentially, what we're saying is that the owner has full control over everything. He makes all of the decisions. Every decision he makes is the final decision. He's not answerable to anybody else unless, of course, he has employees in the business. But even with employees, he's only answerable to the employee in as far as, well, what is your salary at the end of the month? But he makes all of the decisions. He makes a decision in what is his best interest or what is the best interest of the business. Whether it's right or wrong, he has to take charge of every situation and come up with a conclusion. So it's a mirror image of the owner's confidence in himself, because you can't, as a sole proprietor, second guess every decision you make, because obviously it's going to affect your business, it's running, it's time management, all of those other things. So it's an energy booster for him, and it gives him the freedom to think and to act independently. Additionally, an advantage would be that the owner is allowed to have his personal touch. So he can bring his skills and his knowledge and his expertise to the table. He plays with ideas and he decides, okay, I'm going to choose out of all of them. This is the one I'm going to choose. This is the one I like. This is the one I don't like. And he's able to do those things in a very fast manner. He can make things happen to his advantage. And also he's able to do that with his customers, which is what our next slide is talking about. Generally, you find in businesses that are larger, the owners don't necessarily have personal contact with their customers. So let's say, for example, if we were to go into Pennywise, you find that the people you deal with are not the owners of the business. You're not going into Pennywise and dealing with the owner when you ask for a hair product. You're dealing with somebody that Pennywise has hired. And so the owners then have to rely on those people to tell them, we're out of stock for this, or we have a lot of customers coming in asking for this particular brand of hair gel that we don't have, and things like that. So the direct contact with the customer is helping the owner to be able to move fast and to change its services. And so you could then kind of make whatever adjustments you need, and you are able to give the best possible customer service because of your attitude and your habits and things like that. And you're able to see what needs to be changed almost immediately because you're able to talk with your customers. So you find sometimes when you go into small, like if you go for dinner somewhere and you go into one of these small restaurants, you'd find that after you finish having dinner, somebody would come out and ask you, how did you find it? Was it enjoyable? And normally, if it's a very small business, that person is actually business owner. A lot of those businesses, like on Arapit Avenue and things like that, you find that the interaction you're getting, which is often a very pleasant interaction, is with the owner who has the best interest of the business at heart and needs that feedback so that he can make necessary changes for the business. So he is also able to keep the business simple, dynamic, and flexible. And what do we mean by that? He basically can make everything custom for what he needs. So let's use, for example, a tailor. A tailor is able, I can't remember the name of this guy, but there are a couple of tailors around Ecliffey Lie. When he first started his business, he had a very small business, but he was offering a very unique talent and a very unique skill, which was custom fit suits for men. And he, was able to attract a lot of clients because of how he interacted with his clients. And now you see he's the one that is outfitting Marshall for his wedding and all of these other soca stars in Trinidad because of the input that he has been getting. So he was able to be flexible, to change his model, to get customer feedback, and to grow because of his direct interest and his direct input into his business. All right, so what are some of the disadvantages of your sole proprietorship or the business that is owned by just one person? Your liability is unlimited. What does that mean? It means that if something were to go wrong in your business, somebody were to come in and fall on some water and really damage themselves, that liability, if the courts decide that you were wrong or negligent, that liability is entirely yours. So it is not just the building or your assets that will go, your personal assets can also be affected, not just your business assets. So it's actually the most serious and biggest disadvantage is that you have unlimited liability to lawsuits. So that's your big disadvantage there. Your capacity to raise capital is often very limited. There are some websites that you go, some videos that you look at on the television, and you see people trying to raise capital through venture capitalists. So they come and they sell their product and they're like, I'll take 30% or I'll take 40% and this is how much I'll give you. And more often than not, the people who are looking for the capital investment are sole proprietors. Sole proprietors are only able to put what they can get from the bank or what they have personally to invest into the business. And so their ability to then raise capital or to bring somebody else's assets into the business is often very, very limited. And you find that if you want to expand, or if you want to particularly maybe take advantage of a reduced amount of cost for some particular item, you may not have the necessary cash to put into that particular venture. So your limitation then is in certain crucial points in your business, you just will not have the cash flow. There can also be a lack of financial controls. And what do I mean by this? Oftentimes when you're doing business on your own, you're not necessarily paying attention to your accounting. Young businesses are particularly, they have particular difficulties with this. So you find, well, business is not as formally structured. And as a result, money comes in, money goes out. Nobody could say, well, where did the money go? You may not have a separate business account. A lot of people, although you should have a separate business account, put monies from their business directly into their personal account, and you have this commingling of funds. And so you have a lot of difficulty when it comes to your financial statements, when it comes to knowing what your actual profit is and things like that, because you have not been strictly managing your accounting, because maybe the law does not require you to be as strict as it would, let's say, a corporation or a larger business. Life of the business is limited. So the two things that are said here is that, one, the courts do not recognize the difference between a sole proprietorship and its owner. And that's obvious. We've discussed that before. The business and the owner are one. In a corporation, the business is said to have a perpetual existence, because regardless of whether an investor dies or a shareholder dies, there's always somebody who can buy that share and the life of the business continues. But with a sole trader, if you have not made arrangements for succession planning, obviously most of you aren't even going to be thinking about that at this point because you're young and you just want to get something started. But in making your decision, you also have to think about, well, if this business is successful, how do I build longevity into the business? And as we go through some of the other types of businesses, you'll realize that there's a possibility even maybe of changing your business model. Now, this one is particularly popular. I remember some years ago living in Antigua, and there was a place on, I think it was Market Street, that had really, really great burgers. It was literally the best burgers in Antigua. And a couple of years ago, I went back to Antigua and I asked my mom if we could go to the burger place. And she told me the burger place had closed down. I said, why? Their burgers were really great. And every time I went in there, the place was always so full. And her response was, they had one chef. It was an older person. She was the burger maker. She never taught any of her children the recipe. And she died suddenly. And nobody was able to replicate the recipe. As a result, they started losing customers, and eventually they had to close down the business. So this is what we mean when we say the life of the business is limited. The business often dies with the person who owns it, unless they're training somebody to succeed them, or they have a will or something like that in place to say, well, what ought to happen with my business and my assets upon my death. I think we discussed this before. you are the sole decision maker. But when we discuss this, we discuss it as an advantage. It is also a disadvantage because essentially you're taking your own advice. You are making all of the decision without necessarily the input from anybody else. And that could be detrimental because you can't necessarily always see both sides of the coin. You know that that is what you want and you're going to go for it, and there's nobody else to kind of be your sounding block to roll your ideas off of, or to ensure that when you make a decision, you've seen the entire picture. So because of that, you find that that can also be an advantage. So sole traders are often advised to ensure they have a really good person to kind of give advice. And I mean, you can easily overcome this by having proper advisors, by having boards that you can go into and ask questions about, having people on your side who know what you want and where your goals are, and helping them to sound and asking them to be your sounding block, and also having some professionals, even if they're not on your staff, certainly in your back pocket, you know, or reach out to a consultant and say, hey, my business has grown this much and I'm thinking about doing X thing or Y thing. How can I move to the next level? So that's something that is possible for you to overcome. And then one of the other big ones is striking a work-life balance. And obviously that would be something that is pretty challenging because when you own a business, you don't get to sleep. You are the person who is literally doing everything for your business. You're always thinking of the next thing. You're always thinking of what needs to be done. And you can't take a vacation. You can't take time off. If you have to take time off, it means that your business front might be closed, your store front might be closed if you don't have employees, things like that. So you have to ensure that you are able to strike that work-life balance. And the other one is finding and retaining good employees can be difficult. Now, this isn't necessarily always the case if you have a really good business, but a lot of time employees are concerned about their income, their job security, and things like health benefits and insurance and things like that, which sole proprietors aren't often able to give. And then you also have this, it's a lot easier to get job security in a larger company than it is in a sole proprietorship where one person is making decisions. And then, you know, if they're moody or whatever, you find that you started a job and 6 months later you don't have one. So a lot of employees will oftentimes try to stay away from those types of jobs. So that is one of the disadvantages there. So should you be a sole proprietor? That's the question. And by sole proprietor, sole trader, I mean single person. Well, it really depends on how much personal liability your industry will allow. So there are certain companies that it is recommended can be sole proprietors. So we're talking independent consultants, we're talking tutors, we're talking virtual assistants, we're talking online dropship retailers. So like, for example, there's this company Barter Hut here in Trinidad I don't know who owns it, but it's a great sole proprietor business because literally you're just ordering something online and they send a driver out and deliver it to you. And that's a really good option for you to do as a sole proprietor. These are some of the industries where the literature suggests that it's not suited for a sole proprietorship. We're talking about the healthcare industry, and it should be obvious why, because if something were to go wrong, then you're being sued for medical malpractice and you have limited insurance and your business literally dies in tutus, manufacturing, repair. I don't know if you guys are aware, but in Trinidad, a lot of car repair shops in particular, are often sued because of negligence or causing an accident or not providing the service that people paid for and things like that. And food and hospitality. With food and hospitality, I often say it depends on the size of your business and what type of food you're serving. Because obviously, if you're doing like we have so many small food places out there, it's not really fair to say you can't have a sole proprietor there, but this is what the literature suggests. And the reason why they're suggesting this is because, again, your personal assets, your house, your car, whatever you own, separate and apart from the business, are directly at stake in any sort of legal battle. And so you have to make sure you're protected. And I believe one of the presentations today will discuss insurance and some of the things that you can do to mitigate that, that reality. Okay, so it's 3:30 and nobody has given me, Judith, can I get a time check? And we have a couple more slides to go through.
Sure, you have 3 to 13 minutes, meaning I'm not seeing any questions as yet, so you're getting more time. So as soon as I get questions, I will tell, but you have 10 minutes more.
Okay, great, thank you. So let's talk about partnerships. A partnership business can be defined as the coming together of two or more people to form a business, and the intention is to make a profit. The partnership is actually one of the most common types of businesses. And why is that? It is because you have more capital that will come into the business. So you have two people instead of one who are now injecting capital into the business. And so that is a very good reason to join a partnership. The other thing is that your business is likely to continue for a longer time, whether one or the other dies or something else goes wrong. You know, you at least have that partnership. You have another person to continue the business. Risks and losses are not carried by one person. We discussed at length what that means in terms of a sole proprietorship. So now you have two people who are sharing that burden, which means you are better equipped or more likely to be willing to get into a business like this. It's not limited liability, but certainly you can carry less risk this way. Your decisions can be more effective. We just talked about that in the sole proprietorship, where we said one of the disadvantages is that you're the only person making a decision. So here, your decisions are a bit more effective. Two heads are better than one, and it simply means that when you have two people who have come together and they've deliberated, you have a better outcome because you have a wider picture being looked at. Banks often see you as more credit worthy, so your credit rating is much higher than as a sole proprietor, so you're able to invest and to add additional capital through lending institutions. Now, what are the disadvantages? Well, decision making can take longer, whereas it's you alone and in your head, you're able to instantly make a decision and move from there. You're in a situation where you now have to discuss, and if one person doesn't agree, they might want to sleep on it, and you're like, but we really need to make this decision now so we can buy this thing or do whatever, or the sale ends in 24 hours or whatever it is. So that's one of the disadvantages, that you now have somebody else that you have to share that decision making responsibility with. The death of a partner can have a negative effect on the business. This is something obviously that can be overcome simply with a proper partnership agreement, and we'll discuss that a little later down. Then you also have issues with profit sharing. If you don't have a proper partnership agreement, you're now trying to figure out, well, how much of this is really yours? What did you actually put into the business? And therefore, what should you get out of it? Those things are crucial. One partner's actions can negatively affect all of the other people in the business. And this is also obvious because negative press can kill your business. So you may find that somebody buys something that they ought not to buy, but they're buying it within the partnership terms, or they say something publicly that should not have been said that then cripples your business because customers stop coming. If you remember, can't remember what store it was, but a couple months ago, people were trying to boycott, I think it was a juice company, because the daughter of the owner made some racist comments during our political season. So things like that, and I mean, she wasn't even a partner, she was just a relative, but you can have people who do things that will affect your business. So you have to be very conscious and careful of that. And obviously there's the big one where conflicts, particularly misunderstanding and personal disagreements and things that are relational that affect the business, because you're dealing with people and people tend to not see things the same, and they will have those kinds of disagreements. Now, there are different types of partnerships, and some might be more attractive than others, and we'll go through that. So there's general, limited, and joint ventures, okay? So the partnerships types all have similar features, and different partners are able to commit different levels of capital and things like that. So we now go through what happens. So in most forms of business ownership, at least one partner is tasked with making decisions that are day-to-day. So day-to-day business decisions. And you see that the slide here says, while it's not legally required, each of the types of businesses recommends that you should have a formal partnership agreement, because it will save your business in the long run. So let's talk about a general partnership. A business that is owned by 2 or more people, it can have a maximum of 20 owners who have agreed to share assets, liabilities, and profits and losses of the company. That is what is classified as a general partnership. Under the legal forms of ownership, the owners carry unlimited liability, meaning that their personal assets, all of their personal, whether it's 2 or 20, all of them have their personal assets available or at risk in the same amount. The taxes don't come through the partnership, however, they pay their individual taxes. Okay, now what's a limited partnership? A limited partnership is essentially where you have 2 or more people who've agreed to be partners, but one partner is considered a silent partner. We look at that person as sort of an investor. So what they do is they say, I'm going to give you this amount of money, or I'm going to give you this amount of business, this amount of assets to put into your business, but I don't want to make any decisions or handle the daily running or whatever. And so I'm going to limit, and only the assets or the cash that I put into the partnership will be what is available should there be a legal matter that we have to attend to. So the other partner, who's the partner that will be running the business on a day-to-day basis and making the management decisions, still has unlimited liability. So this is often attractive for people who just want to invest and who already have a steady job and steady income, and they want to maintain that, but they're looking for additional income. So you're a partner in the business, so you will get dividends, you'll get profits, you'll get whatever to the amount that you have put into the business, but you carry a whole lot less risk. All right. So the advantages are that you get a share, and this is advantages specifically to the limited partnership. You get a share of the assets, and you don't need to be involved in the day-to-day. And I think for a lot of people who just can't deal with all of that, that's a really great advantage. You have limited personal financial risk, and well, obviously only for limited partners, and your taxes are only in relation to your income tax specifically. And obviously with something like this, you have a better opportunity to attract investors. The disadvantage is that the general partner is still fully liable. So you have to decide if it's your personal business, but you're looking to generate additional income. This is a great way to do it, but you are still fully liable and your personal assets are still at risk. And one of the disadvantages, sort of, it could be both, is that a limited partner can still assume a general partner liability and become more active in the business. All right. And then you have a joint venture. So the joint venture is a type of business arrangement between 2 or more parties that agree to combine their resources in order to accomplish a specific project. So you could have 2 businesses that say, okay, we want to develop this particular thing, and they create a partnership or a joint venture just for that thing. They're still individual companies. So you can actually work with another consultant. You still have your consultancy and they still have their consultancy, but the outcome is that at the end of that particular venture, then the partnership is at an end. All right. The obvious advantage of this is that you get increased capacity and access to resources. You are sharing liability with other people, and you're able to access additional markets for your own business. All right, and the disadvantage is that different people might have different visions for what the venture ought to be, and this is why it's important to ensure that you have a partnership agreement. Sometimes the input can be imbalanced, so one party might be doing more than the other, and that could become problematic, and oftentimes there's communication breakdowns. So all of these things ought to be built into your partnership agreement. So a partnership agreement ought to set out the terms and conditions as agreed by all of the parties, and the document should try as best as possible to cover all of the possible issues that could come up. Obviously, you could never think of all of the issues, but you try as best as possible to cover as many of them as you can. Okay, so the partnership agreement ought to govern the relations between the partners as partners and between the partners and the partnership, which is the business itself. It needs to be able to cover the business of the partnership, as in we are going to be selling bricks because we're a construction company, and they ought to say how the business will be conducted. These are the things you're allowed to do. These are the things you're not allowed to do. These are the days we're going to be selling and not selling. These are opening hours, closing hours, where, when, and how. And they ought to cover also how the agreement is to be amended. Judith?
Yes, just have about 1 minute to round up, and then we have one question so far.
No problem. All right. Let's see how fast we can run through this. So some of the details that need to be included: the name of the partnership, the principal office, meaning where the office is going to be located, the length of the partnership, if it's to infinity, if it's for 3 years, 1 year, whatever, the purpose, what are the activities, what products is going to be selling, the types of partners in the partnership. So you could have general, you could have limited partners, depending on who's going to be active and who's going to be silent, and the governing laws. So if you live in Trinidad and then somebody decides that they're migrating, but they're still a part of the partnership, then you need to say, well, the governing law is going to be Trinidad. You don't want somebody suing you in the US because they've moved. Then in nature, so contributions of each partner, how many partners, whether or not you're going to admit new partners, and what is their minimum contribution in order to become a partner, distribution of profits, allocation of losses, how you can draw down from whatever you inputted into the partnership. Those are some of the things that you want to consider. Rights and duties of each partner, the standards of expected conduct, the management powers that you may have, how decisions will be made, when you get time off, whether your interest can be transferred to somebody else or not. Judith, I'm talking as fast as I can. 2 minutes. And what events should cover your dissolution or disassociation. So it might be that, okay, you've done something terribly wrong, or you've acted in a way that is outside of what the company anticipates and expects, and therefore we want to disassociate from you. Or how do we dissolve the partnership? So all of those things should be covered in your partnership agreement. I will stop there. The two that we have not covered are the corporation and the limited liability company. But as I said, I felt like the two above were the two that were most important to our youth and the ones that you would more likely consider. There you go.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We have a few questions, but before we get to the questions, let's just sum up a bit. Today we learned about two. The sole person is my business, my idea, my business, my money, everything. I work long hours. I don't have time for anything else because I'm investing all my time in my business. Number one. Number two, we talked about partnership where, we have more people getting involved, bringing money into it. So I have more time for my family, more relationships, more whatever it is. But decision making takes a little longer because, we have to trash out all these things, know what is happening here, do our research and stuff like that. Remember, folks, in COVID, we have started businesses in unexpected areas. Some persons have started baking I know I didn't do that, but I mean, I did some granola, but I wouldn't want to start my own business doing granola just yet. I still have to perfect it, but at
Delivery
least
services are on the rise
delivery,
as well.
right? Yes.
Gardening, produce.
Exactly. So as we, learn about these things, we would have had tried some things in the past and we would really want to go. So our first question is here. Does one have to register a business first before beginning operations, or can one test it out for a while before formalizing it? That's a
As
question
a
from
sole
the
trader, you can start acting on your own. You just simply need to pay attention to your taxes. I think Samuel can give more light when he comes on, but as a sole trader, you can do your stuff on your own and test it out, see how it goes, and then decide how you want to formalize it. The answer is yes.
Okay, great. Now, from business, it would tell you that small businesses would run at a loss for a period of time before they start making profit. Is that really true even now in the 21st century where things are happening at a lot faster pace? Could you shed any light on that?
That was never actually true. You can look from the very beginning and see whether or not this is profitable. Nobody goes into something to make a loss. I think that statement came from the perspective that, okay, don't give up right away, even if you made a loss. Maybe you just need to tweak a few things. Maybe you need to advertise more and get some more customers, but it is not it's not a general sort of thing. When you go into your business, obviously you start to look at, well, really, I have $20 and I want to sell pineapples. I'm only going to be able to buy 2, so I'll sell them at $15 each. That's a standard. What happens is sometimes you have demand being less than your supply, or different things. So you will make a loss in some instances, but it is definitely not a cookie cutter and standard that you will make a loss in your first year. A lot of people don't.
Okay, great. Next question is, what advice can you give to someone who is deciding as a sole proprietor what sort of capital they would need, and from their personal funds, or should they go for a loan? If they should use their personal funds or go for a loan, what are the advantages or disadvantages of each?
Well, it entirely depends on the type of business you're going to be starting and the capital needs of that particular business. If you think you've worked out all of your details, you have a business plan, and you're of the view that this is what you need in order to make a profit, then choosing to take a loan would mean you have to ensure that you have steady income to repay that loan, or that the monies that are coming into the business can repay that loan. And I would always recommend that you consider maybe using your personal funds in the first instance, because it means then if you do lose in the business, you're not also going to be in a place where you now have your credit affected and things like that because you owe the bank. So it depends entirely on the business, and you can probably look at the details to make that decision. The advantages of using your own funds is that you won't owe anybody anything. And if your funds are depleted, then when you start to get a profit, you can put that back into your own funds, as opposed to owing the bank where you now have to pay interest. You are putting your credit at risk. And should the business flop, you now owe somebody else monies that you have to make sure and find and return.
All right, thank you so very much, Fanella, on that. Now, this question is coming from me basically because when we started, Justin said, put this box here and put think outside, and it's be thinking outside the box, right? So the question is, persons who would have probably have an idea, who probably putting it on paper and stuff, who can they share this idea with to see if it's a viable idea to go forward? I know we can all start and do anything, but who can we look forward to or share this idea with to see if it's a good viable business plan?
There are a number of people who do consulting. There is also the small business development company.
NIBDECO.
Yes, they assist with things like that. A very trusted friend that you think won't betray you, Jesus, your mother. people who are experts in the area, and you don't give all of the details, you just give the general idea, because oftentimes people take your idea and run with it and make it theirs, or tell you it's not viable, and then a year later you realize your exact business model is actually what they're making money off of. So yeah.
All right. Thank you so very much, Fanella. We have about 30 persons here beside the rest of us who were here, and I'm sure they were very happy with the information. My mom is 91. She turned 91 last year, and she still owns her own business. She has a parlor downstairs her house, and she goes up and down that stairs every day selling bread and candy and all kinds of things. Sometimes she gives away the candy more than she sells it, but I guess that's her way of getting to know her community members and being around so they know she's alive and well and everything. So thank you very much on behalf of Tacuma District for spending this time with us and pointing us into that direction. All right, as we learn to manage our own, be our own boss. All right, our second presenter this afternoon comes to us, Mr. Samuel George. He is currently the manager of Chavern and Associates Limited, which is a family-owned accounting firm. He has been in the field of accounting for over 10 years and has experience managing corporate accounts for all sizes of entrepreneurs and even multi-million-dollar businesses. All right, he's a second generation entrepreneur, and beside all of that, he is also a young man who is very much into youth and works very much with uniform and band and stuff like that, very active into the church. So Mr. George, welcome. You are up next, and you will be looking at, you're going to tell us what. Welcome. Remember, everyone, put your questions in the chat. I'll be looking at it. Welcome, Mr. George.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Everyone can hear me good, right?
Yes, clearly.
Sweet. All right. So this afternoon we're going to be looking at, This afternoon we're going to be looking at the registration. And do I really have to register my business? I know someone was asking a question earlier. What is the benefits of registering, or is there any disadvantages to starting your business before you register? And I hope that at the end of this presentation, that question would be answered, right? But I just want to thank the Tacuma District for the invitation to speak with you guys this afternoon. We're not going to take too long. It's not, let me see, 20 minutes or so, right? So let's jump into it. What are the objectives of this? You're gonna see why should we register? What are the benefits of registration, right? What do I need in terms of the necessary documents and stuff? And how do I go about registering? That's just those things we're gonna look at this afternoon. Great. Why register? I think the first thing is we have a spiritual obligation. Mark chapter 12 and verse 17 says, and Jesus answered and said to them, render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. Remember this when they was asking if they should pay taxes. Yes, you have to pay taxes once you are a business owner. Once you're doing business in the people's country, give the people the money. Nice. So there's a spiritual obligation. Jesus said that himself. There's also a trading obligation in terms of branding requirements. Now, it will be very unfortunate. If Auntie Judith, Officer McLeod James says, you know, she have granola and she's selling granola and she have her name Judith's granola, and then some next Judith from South also doing granola. But everybody up north knows Judith's granola as Judith McLeod James. But Judith down south don't register her name and she trading as Judith's granola. And that is very legal. And once it is you are trading, you would want to register your trading name as soon as possible. All right, in order to have your branding and stuff. There's also a legal obligation in terms of entity separation. Fanella spoke about that just a little while ago. Entity separation here is only really for the companies. Now, I'll be using two terms this afternoon, businesses and companies, right? So from a registration point of view, we put the sole traders, the partnerships under the business purview, right? And because of the last session, we know what those are. And then under companies, we have corporations and LLCs, right? Limited liability companies. There are also companies that are unlimited liability companies and stuff, but companies and businesses, those two overarching company expressions that we are going to use and terms that we're going to use this afternoon. So the legal obligation in terms of entity separation has to do with the companies. And now once you register a company or you incorporate a company, what happens is that company now becomes its own legal entity, its own separate framework, right? We're going to look at some of the benefits. Let's look at some of the benefits. And as I said before, the first two, branding. Once you register your business, now we're using Judith Granola as our business of choice today. And let's use, let me see, somebody else. We'll still use Judith Granola, and we can use, let's use our company, Chavern and Associates Limited, all right, as our company of choice. So Judith McLeod James has her granola business and going nice and stuff. She wants to get packaging and labels. She wants to get an Instagram page and a Facebook page to market herself on social media and stuff. Can she do that? Yes, she can. She can. Yeah, legally she can, but it's not necessarily the wisest thing, because someone, as I said previously, could go and register their name, register that name, and they go on basically with your business, your goodwill, right? So that you would have acquired thus far. Once you register, you could now go and plaster the world with your name, spread your name all over and market yourself as best as you can. In terms of entity separation, Chavern and Associates now is a separate entity from the directors, right? Because as we saw earlier, in terms of the legal framework, how that happens if there is a legal matter or a legal settlement. Samuel George or the family of Samuel George is not necessarily liable to whatever claims made. The company now is liable, and that plays a large difference in terms of your personal finances. We're looking at banking. What are the benefits in banking? In order for you to open a corporate account with any bank or any financial institution in Trinidad and Tobago, you must be registered, either as a business or a company. If it is that you are a sole trader or a partnership and you want to have a separate account, which is the wisest choice, I believe next week we'll be looking at accounting and finance and stuff. Opening a separate account for your finance, even as a sole trader and a partnership, you will still need to have that registered, right? So you would need a lot of other documents, projected cash flow statements and statement of assets and a whole lot of other documents, but you will need to be registered before they even touch your documents. They want to see that face. And we have taxation, render to Caesar. That statement comes back there. Taxes, you can't get away from taxes, people. There's no way, no how. You may not pay it to them, but bet your bottom dollar. I can say that here. I hope I can. I apologize if I cannot. But sure enough, if you are audited by the Board of Inland Revenue, so the people who watch plenty TV, right? The US form is the IRS, right? We have BIR auditors, which are just as meticulous, and your penalties and interest will rack up real fast. Then there's also a system of growth. The system of growth. Creating and registering a company, as Fanella was talking about, you know, the burger lady and stuff. If you register and you put things in place, then you have now a system of continuity. a system where you can grow and that kind of thing. And that's even more so in a company, right? What do we need? What will I need? All right, so you say at this point, yeah, a soul. What are some of the things that I will have to get if I want to register my business? If you want to register your business, you'll need to have a vision. You need to have a vision. Where you see yourself going? Where do you see yourself? Where do you see this business taking off and going? Are you going to stay as a sole trader? No, you can't stay as a sole trader. Nothing is wrong with that. You can stay as a sole trader or a partnership, and you guys can work and grow this business and remain as a business, and that's okay. And you see that framework, that business framework, more happening in terms of like in the service industry, woodworkers and lawyers and a lot of other people who are in the personal service industry have businesses, and they remain as businesses for a long while. So you must have a vision. Where do you see yourself going? You must have a name. Now, this name should be something that represents you, represents who you are, represents what the company should stand for, right? A name that is easy to come off the top of somebody's head, you know, a name that is easily marketable. Think about a name that represents what it is you're trying to portray yourself as. You should also have, or what you would need to have, is a scope of business. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Is it, okay, so the business that we are using is Judith's Granola, and Judith's Granola, is she only going to make granola? Is she going to make a mixed fruit kind of something now, going to seeds? What else can she diversify? She can diversify and go into a lot of other stuff. But what is the scope of business? What is the scope of business? And you'll need to figure that out as well, right? You'd also need to know your operating location in terms of where you're going to do this business. Is it going to be at home? You're going to rent an office somewhere? Are you going to rent a warehouse somewhere? Rent a kitchen? Where is your operating location? And there's a lot of other legal framework and a lot of other stuff that we could touch on, but I want to keep it as concise as possible. I guess in the future, we probably could have some other follow-up sessions if possible. Right, you need to know who the owner is going to be. In terms of a sole trader or a partnership, you need to know who the owners of the business are. And for a limited liability company, you need to know who the directors are. Notice here, we have a minimum of 2. You must have at least 2 directors for a company. You must have at least 2. Maximum up to you, right? But I think it's 20. But you must have 2 directors at least. And all these directors must have state-issued ID, government ID, you know, your national ID card, updated, valid, for both businesses and LLCs. And also for the companies, you must have a secretary. Now, the secretary could be one of the directors, could be the principal director, and that's okay, but you must state who the secretary is. Now, this secretary is not the secretary that you see when you walk in an office and you talk to a secretary. It's not that type of secretary, right? This secretary is the person who will be co-signing on all the legal documents and the banking information and that kind of thing. That was who the secretary is going to be. All right, so those are some of the things that you would need to have in your mind. Now, there are a lot of other options, right? There are a lot of other things. The registration of the company and the business is not it's not a minor thing. It's not a minor affair. There's a lot of other framework. You have to look at the shares, the issuance of the shares. You have to look at, well, we talk about the scope of business. You also have to look at bylaws, company bylaws, restrictions of operations if you're looking at companies. But for businesses, as Fanella was rightly saying, it is easier to start a business. It is easier to register the business. And once you are now beginning, that is the most feasible thing to do, right? It's also a lot cheaper to run that in terms of its taxation. I apologize, in terms of its taxation and stuff. So the big question is, how do we register? And you have two options basically in terms of the registration. You can register for yourself. Registering for yourself, you have to go through a two-part initial process, and then you can start the application. So you have to first get your TT Connect ID. I think most persons have who would have done gates and stuff would have had a TT Connect ID. Even though recently I'm hearing that they're saying that you have to get a separate ID if you're going to do business than one for your education. I cannot confirm that, but you can go onto this website here, www.ird.gov.tt/etax/ttconnect, and you will have to register for your TT Connect ID. It doesn't take long, and it's fairly simple, right? And then after that, depending on if you're going to do an individual or company, now there's two different forms that you're going to register your TT BizLink ID for, right? You can register if it is that you yourself just want to do business in terms of filing your taxes or whatever the case is, you can do the individual one. If it is that you're going to do it from a company perspective, like what our company does, then you will use Form B, right? And the websites are there, ttbizlink.gov.tt, and you can follow these steps. Everyone here is tech savvy, you can follow it along, and it will be fine. Right? So once you get into TT BizLink, do I have enough time? Do I have enough time to do a quick run through? I'm not sure.
You have at least 15 minutes. I will tell you when 10 minutes up, just in case anybody puts any question in.
Nice, great. So let me just 1 second. All right, can you see my screen now?
Not as yet.
No.
No, you have to unshare and then share again.
Okay, great. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Great. So when you go into TT BizLink, after you have done your registration and stuff, you go into TT BizLink. Right, so you see the website there. Right? And you're going to register. Once you have completed the registration process and you have your login information, you're going to log in. Now, when you log in, you're going to enter e-company registration, and from this point, you're going to fill out the information here. You're going to fill out the information here and go through the steps. It's pretty simple enough. You may need to ask some questions, or you may need to do a little bit more research in terms of what your particulars, what you would want, and that kind of thing for your company or for your business. And just follow the steps, and you will be fine. Fair to fine. Fair to fine. So let me just come back over here now. Great. The next step, that's if you're going to do it for yourself, right? The next step, you can outsource that entire registration process, where you don't have to go and fight up all those things. However, I just want to give you this information. Now, if you're outsourcing, obviously, you're going to have to pay someone to do it, right? But I want you to keep something in mind. If you're paying someone to do it, these fees here are mandatory fees. Mandatory fees. So if you're going to do the initial name search, because you have to find your name first. Remember, we spoke about the type of name that you're going to be looking for. If it is that you're going to do a name search, the mandatory fees are here. For the business, it's $20, and for the company, it's $25. And when you're going to do the registration, that's after the name has been approved, and you're going to do the business registration, it costs $220 in legal fees and $560 for company incorporation for legal fees. Now I'm itemizing legal fees because persons who are going to do it will charge their charges on top of that, right? For their personal or for their business service charges on top of that. I want you to keep this in mind. Even when you're going to register for yourself, these fees are still applicable. It's not free, right? And nothing in business really is free. The only thing that's free is probably the BIR application, but we'll get to that. Everything else is minor cost, right? Let me just show you guys this real quick. If it is that we want to do the name search, you're questioning yourself. All right, is my name the name that I have is Judith? What was it again? Judith Granola. Is that name available? How do I get to find that out? Now that is easy to do. That is easy to do, and I'm going to show that to you right now. Okay, great. So we're back on the screen. You guys can see the screen, right?
Yes, we can.
Great.
Legal affairs.
Legal affairs. rgd.legalaffairs.gov.tt. And in here now, this is free. This is open to anyone. You can come and search for names that you want. Let's look for Judith. So from the time you start to type in Judith, it will come up with all the Judiths that there are registered now. There's no one registered for Judith right now. That's good. That's good. So Judith, you can start your granola, or there's a possibility that you can have that business name available to you. Okay. Let's look at Judith. So I want you guys to take note of this, right? Remember, we're trying to make ourselves a little bit self-sufficient here. So rgd.legalaffairs.gov.tt. You plug that in, and then it's really simple. You just type in whatever name you're thinking about to register your business, and it will tell you all the persons who are registered currently. All right. There we go. Hey, look at that. Children and Associates. Nice.
All right, just letting you know you have 10 minutes.
After a little. Okay. So we're back to it. And penultimate slide. Is it? Yeah. So when we are doing after we have applied for unregistered our company and our business, something that is mandatory is our BIR file number application. Taxes are mandatory, and your BIR number is necessary to file the taxes. Therefore, i.e., BIR number application is mandatory. All right, so don't forget how that step. After you register your business, you have to apply for a BIR file number. And for companies, each director must have their personal BIR number. So you need all the other company documents that you're going to get after you would have completed your company or your business registration. That, along with, for the company, the personal BIR number of all the directors is what you're going to need. All right, if there's any further information that you require, you can always visit these places, TT BizLink or the Registrar's General Department of Company Registry. That is in the Ministry of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs. All right, or you can contact our company here at this information, Facebook, Instagram, email, website, or phone contact for further information. I believe there are some questions.
All right. Before we get into the questions, let me just say, I must say you just opened my eyes to carrying this business of mine further. I do like Mikael's idea for the name, Judith's Delights, because the idea of granola came because I was kind of tired of eating oats just so I decided to try granola, and it tasted good. And then I even tried banana bread with oat flour. So the delights coming in quite nice, sharpening the little skills that I didn't know I really had. And that is how businesses get started, with an idea, out of necessity. And we want to thank you very, very much again for that. Let's recap what we learned so far. The scope of business was very, very important for me in diversifying the whole idea. Whether it's a business or a company, it was good. Looking at the IRB, for legal affairs to check the name, and since nobody has Judith as yet, I may just run and capitalize on that. Not sure about all the business thing yet, but again, we'll work on that. We have one question in the chat, and it says, I think you may have answered it already, but I'll leave it up to you. Can someone who already has a TT Connect ID / TT Biz Link ID register your business / company on your behalf? That means, like what you said, if you're paying someone, they will charge. So you go ahead and answer that question.
Great, yes, and that is very much accurate. That is possible. If someone already has a BizLink ID, once it's a company, then yes, they can register on your behalf. You obviously will have to sign the documents. When they register, it will print all the documents and stuff before it's actually physical people who can send into the Ministry of Legal Affairs. And you obviously will have to sign those. Make sure that you are the ones who sign those documents. All right. And then yeah.
Yeah, what is important as well, we need to read these things as well. Sometimes when we ask people to do things for us and they come and bring the paper for us blindfoldly, we just sign stuff, but it's important to read as well. All right. Now, as you talk about registering and you talked about giving Caesar's what is due to Caesar, can we get away from paying taxes until we make a profit, so to speak? Because we have, as we talked about earlier with Fanella's presentation, we have to invest all this money in the startup business and do all these kinds of things, because I still have to buy the oats and I still have to buy the nuts and whatever else I put in all these things. When I do all of that, if I don't make a profit, will I still have to pay taxes, as the case might be, as a sole business owner?
Good question. As a sole trader, the taxes is going to be dependent on your net income, your profit. If you're not making a profit, you don't have taxes. So that's an option. As a company, however, the taxes that you do pay on your gross income is minuscule at best. It's less than 1% total of your total gross, right? So it's not heavily taxed. It's not heavily taxed, your gross income, but your net income, however, is heavily taxed. Ranging from 30 to 35, depending on your net income balance and ending balance, right?
Okay.
So if there's a way the question was, is there a way to get away from that? No, there's not really a way. There's a way to do everything, but in this forum, no, there's no way.
Okay, I hear you. That leads to the next question, and this question is saying, seeing that the sole business owner and the individual basically one, how does the individual tax interfere or coincide with the taxes for the business?
Give me that again, sorry.
All right. The question is asked, since the sole business owner and the individual, basically one and the same person, how does individual exemption of the $72,000 affect the person or the business paying taxes?
Okay, so there are different classifications of taxes for personal. There's emolument and non-emolument taxation. So if it is you're working for someone, that means that you are an employee of someone, that is a different tax bracket or a different tax demographic as if you are a sole trader. As a whole different form and everything. If you are a sole trader, you're not going to be taxed twice. That's in a different tax demographic. I hope that answers the question.
Okay. Well, I'm waiting on a response from the person. So if they think not, they will ask again. Now, another question is, what forum can we hope to get to answer the question how we can get around from the taxes?
I always want to state again, there's no way to get around taxes. There's no way. Taxes are mandatory and legally you are obligated to pay all taxes.
Okay. A little confession here, you know, when you're doing your personal taxes, you know, you have your dates and stuff like that. I have been getting away with doing 5 years all at one time, and I've been firmly warned in this last rounds by the IRB, you know, try and get my taxes done every year, you know, and that goes to show in alignment with what you're saying, you know, we cannot really get away from paying taxes, even if you may not be owing the government any money, you know, they require you to pay the taxes and stuff like that. All right.
If I just want to give just a quick, there was someone who had to pay taxes and they didn't pay. They paid their taxes, but they underpaid by, I believe it was $1.46. And 6 years later, they were owing the government, I think it's $8,000 in penalties and interest.
Whoa.
Pay taxes, people, pay taxes.
Yes, you know, and some people would go on the other side saying, you know, when they have returns for you, it takes forever, no interest is given on it, but still, you know, yeah. All right.
About 3 to 4 weeks now to get back your tax.
Yes, I realize that is happening even when it's 5 years later.
Yeah.
It worked out really nice to me. So I have been warned, people. So I'm warning you, people, try and pay your taxes on time. All right, the question comes in again. I started a limited LTD in 2019, but didn't make any money. Did an affidavit to go along with my tax form. However, COVID came and nothing has been done with the company. Would I have to do an affidavit again for the tax form for the year?
If the person started business in 2019, they had operations and they have documentation to support that they had operations, but they didn't make any money. That's cool. They won't have to do another affidavit to show that they did not have an income in the year 2020 when they are doing it's a LTD. When they are doing their corporation tax return, that will be reflected on that as such. So no.
Awesome. Okay, so that's all the questions we have. So Sammy, we want to thank you very, very much. You just opened my eyes, and I'm sure a lot of people, you know, that box and they think outside we were asked to do. A number of persons started writing things and putting ideas down. Again, the question to you, I know when we asked Fanella said, you know, we could use NIPDECO and all the other people. Do you have anybody you think we can share our ideas with in order to go forward with our business? I see you put phone numbers in the chat, so again, they can use your phone numbers to contact you and share ideas with you as the case might be. Is that it?
Yeah, definitely. So our company does that. You would really like to talk it over with someone, a legal person or an accountant, a certified chartered accountant, and that person will be able to guide you and direct you in terms of the direction that you want to head. If it makes sense financially, well, you know, that's the bottom line, right? The bottom line is money, right? If it makes sense financially, if you're going to incur what additional costs. So there might be things that you're not thinking about that will incur costs down the road, like outside of the business framework, just things that you may not be thinking about. That person having experience might be able to open your eyes to that. So you can contact me at those numbers, or there might be other persons who, I know Shelly has her thing that she does, and there might be other persons who may be able to give advice where that is concerned.
All right, thank you so very much, especially to the person who asked the question about using their own funds to start their business or take a loan. That is something you would really want to run by someone who has a figure mind. Not a literal mind like mine, a figure mind, you know, so they can plug in some figures for you and to help you along with that. Again, on behalf of Tacuma District, we want to say thank you so very much for this information, people. Sammy, we want to say thank you again. We are gaining a lot of information, and soon and very soon you're going to see some businesses starting, huh? Trust me, you're going to see some businesses starting. All right. All right. All right, so everyone, any more questions? Let's go over Sammy's number. There is 676-8675 and 3899840. I know some of you are on your phone, so you may not be able to see in the chat at the moment, but feel free to contact him. And Fanella's number for any assistance, any questions on Legal Mind again, her number is 461-6947. All right, so we are making it an opportunity for you to start your own business. So our final speaker now this afternoon is Mr. Lewis, and here he is an entrepreneur and an insurance risk advisor with 5 years of experience in insurance, sales, investments, small business development. All right. So he comes with a wealth of knowledge. He has several companies he worked with, including the prestigious $1 Million Roundtable as a member and as a donor sponsor as well. Wow, that is awesome. He's enthusiastic and he is passionate. Living one's best life. He is able to share that with us. Oh, this is great stuff I'm seeing here. All right. So he has opened a lot of doors. He has been speaking on a number of these topics before. So we are excited to have Mr. Lewis with us. He's also a scholar at the American College of Financial Services. Oh, it's just a lot here. Yes, and he's the director of Bridges to the Heart. Oh, after all, he's just involved in everything. All right, he's a financer, he's a business person, an entrepreneur, and all these kinds of businesses running. So he is going to be our final speaker for this afternoon. Please remember, we have a question and answer period. So the time now, Mr. Lewis, is yours. Welcome on behalf of Tacuma District. Welcome, and we look forward to your presentation.
Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I want to say it's a pleasure to be here. When the idea was shared with me, I jumped at it because I think a lot of us as young people, we want to start a business. We have ideas that we believe in, that we think are special and that are unique. And we see gaps in the system. When I say gaps, we see a gap in terms of what exists right now and what is necessary to make what exists better. And we believe that's where we come in. Now, in regards to all of the things that was said, what I found interesting is that Fanella nor Samuel or myself would have met to discuss. But what you find is that there's a common thread that goes through all of our presentation. And it basically says that while all of the points are noteworthy in terms of what type of business that you set up, the types of business that you go to, with Samuel, how you go about registration. I saw in both of their presentation, it spoke about mindset. Mindset is crucial. Mindset is important in starting a business. And with 6 years of business development under my belt, what I find is that That's one of the biggest questions persons ask. Kristen, I want to start a business. I want to offer a special or unique service. And they asked me two questions. How do I get started and where do I get the money? And I would have plugged them into the program so they would have seen from Fanella the process in terms of how to get started, and Samuel in terms of how to get started. And what I want to touch on very briefly, I won't take too long, but I'm hoping that we can have some fun, is how are you going to finance our business? We had questions that came up that discussed it, but I want to share an in-depth look. And let's not just do a theoretical understanding, we'll have a theoretical understanding of it, but let's also have a practical understanding of where you can get financing from to start your business. So often when these programs come up, or when I hear the question, Kristen, how do I get started and where do I get the finance to start the business? I always smile when I hear it from especially young people or our people or youth, because I think if there was the right information, or if they could get the right information, they would make more informed decisions. So personally, I don't have a PowerPoint presentation today, but I'm hoping that we could just have a discussion. I'm asking of you, it's going to be an interactive session. If you have questions, I'm leaving the question bar open on my right. Ask questions, I'll address it as quickly as possible. And let me say this, this is based on a variance of opinions. These are my opinions based on what works in the markets or in the sectors that I work in. And I think that they will be able to help you. So let me as well thank Tacuma. You guys are doing amazing work, and to see where the economy is and to see where we are as a country, and to see that you all are putting these initiatives in place so that young people could really take advantage of it. I asked everyone who's on the chat, I'm seeing that we're up to 40 participants, take out a pen and a piece of paper. The information that you're getting today is valuable, and they will make a difference between success and sometimes not being so successful, or having to learn some of the hard lessons. Like Samuel said, it's very difficult sometimes. You have a business, you didn't register, you build a name, you build a brand awareness, and people are very familiar or understand who you are. And just because they didn't, someone has the name, or you actually have to change your brand, change the name after having years of success with a particular name. So if you want to do it right, if you want to do it properly, I would say listen to the advice I was given today, but take notes. So let me jump right into it. About a year ago, I met a billionaire. Not a Trinidadian billionaire, like a billionaire. And it was one of the most exciting meetings that probably I ever had in my 6-year career. So I met with him and I asked him for like tips and advice in terms of how one could go about in terms of mastering this whole thing about finance. And he said to me, he's like, very simple, Kristen, if you don't sweat in the gym, you'll bleed in the ring. And I was like, what? What do you mean by this? If you don't sweat in the gym, you'll bleed in the ring. And he asked me a particular question. He said, Kristen, when it comes to finance, when it comes to mastering one's finance and starting business, you have to ask yourself two questions. Now, what we're going to touch on today is how to access financing. But before we get there, I think there are some steps that we need to cover. And when he said to me, if you don't sweat in the gym, you'll bleed in the ring, what he asked me is like, Kristen, what business or what idea that you have that you think is so unique, or what service that already exists, you think that you could create such an element that does not exist in an existing market that makes your business so unique? And he said to me, will you, Kristen, finance yourself? Normally, I don't know if any of you all ever looked at the show Shark Tank. Persons come with business ideas and there's a panel. And the panel normally asks questions in terms of how the business is doing, or share your business idea with me. And this panel gives an analysis of if they would fund or if they would finance the business. And the question I ask you as we're looking into business, and this is one of the things you should write down, would I finance me? A lot of times when we take our business to maybe family and friends or financial institutions, and they close the door on us, or they say no, or they give us a list of requirements long as we feel a little despondent. And what I will say is that level of scrutiny, that level of critique, all of those things are very helpful. I need you as young entrepreneurs or persons who are thinking about starting business to be able to sweat in the gym. Discuss your ideas with persons, friends, family members, people that you love and you trust. Fanella spoke about it. Don't discuss it with everyone. Person stealing your idea is something that is very real and that is very common. But share it with your parents. I think that's a good place to start. Share it with like your pastor, and I'm sure share it with God first and foremost. But share it with persons that you could touch. And let them punch holes in it. And you might say, Kristen, why is that necessary if you're talking about finance? But let them punch holes in it, because what I want that will emerge from your business idea is if you're going to ask somebody to finance your business idea needs to be solid. Your business idea needs to be strong. Your business idea has to be able to withstand scrutiny. And if it can't do that, then, and if every time it gets some kind of opposition, you cower or you fall back, then you need to relook at it, because you're not just yet ready to deal with the financial institutions, because they come in with the questions and they come in with the concerns, because they want to know that you are as invested as they are. So the question is, will you invest in you? So the second point I want to look at is, once you determine that your business idea or your idea has been poked into, broken apart, scrutinized, take all of that stuff, it's hard. I want to touch on a point that is just, I don't know, is business common sense. Business is hard, and business will really show you the test of your character, will really show you who you are. And you have to be able to withstand no's. You have to be able to withstand scrutiny. And you're probably asking, well, Kristen, what you're talking about? This is not finance. And I'm telling you, yes, it is. Because when it comes to business and finance, you're not going to get money unless you're able to well defend your business. So I'm referring to the conversation I had with the gentleman, the billionaire. And the second thing he said to me is like, Kristen, finance is based on relationship. And that stuck out to me in the 6 years. And most of us, or most young business persons, they've never had a loan. They've never had a credit card facility. They have no credit history. They have no relationship with the bank. And this idea comes in their mind, and they want to get out of the 8-to-4 system or the regular system. Maybe they have a degree, maybe they have some higher level of study, and they want to start a business. But they've never had any relationship with the bank. And they believe that because the idea is good, because there's a good business plan. We learned in USC how to do a good business plan for all those who business majors. And because the idea is good and it's sound and it's credible, we think that the bank should just lend us money, or we think that our family and friends should just lend us money. And sometimes, and this is where the practical application comes in, and sometimes when we get a no, we left a little despondent. So what I'll ask you to do is, question is, do you have a relationship with the bank? And one of the things I want to suggest is before we go to the banks to start asking for money, I would ask you something that I ask all my clients. And I want you to write this down. Do you have skin in the game? Now, you might find that's a weird statement, but what it simply means is, do you believe in your idea so much so that you will invest your personal funds into it to make it a reality? Now, I've heard the question asked in Fanella's presentation, should you use personal funds in a business? I have very close relationships with banking officers. And when the bank looks at an application to say yes or no, when the credit union looks at an application, when Nedco, I have personal friends in Nedco, when they look at an application, they want to see if you, the business owner, you with the great idea, you with the great business plan, they want to see if you have skin in the game. If you have been saving, if you have been putting aside, if you have anything to invest in this business, if you believe in this business as much as you want us to believe in it, do you have it? And the second thing about it, before we get to the financial institutions, one is you believing in you, not just from a mental point of view, but from a cash point of view, putting some money into the project, the venture, saving, having something done. And the second thing is can you coerce, can you get your friends, your family, and your loved ones to invest in you? Or can you convince, or can you share your idea with someone so that they will be willing to partner with you? Because in business, two heads are better than one in most cases. So now we've not gotten to the financial institution. We're talking about funding, and I've shared 3 points with you all, and I haven't spoken about the banks yet. Because business is not just about the financial aspect as much as it is important, but in order to get to the financial part, I need to know that you have the right mindset to get there. The bank wants to know, the credit union wants to know, companies want to know that you have the right mindset to get there. So the second part is getting your family and your friends to invest in you, getting a partner who's willing to invest in you. Now, sometimes I hear often, Christian, your family are the hardest critics. Your family shut down your ideas and those things. And what I will say to you, if your family shutting down your ideas, use that as fuel, use that as ammunition to make your idea better. Revise your value proposition, revise your service elements, revise what you bring to the market that is so unique, that is so profound, that your business will be a success. And when you go to your family, I'm asking of you, don't go to them saying, hey, I have a business idea, I need X. Go to them and write this down. Go to them saying, I have X, I need help with Y so that I can get to Z. I have X, I'll need help with Y so that I can get to Z. Because I want to ensure that you follow the right channels in terms of getting the funding you need to start your business. So we're going step by step, and I don't want to take too long, but I don't want to miss any of these steps. Fanella and Samuel laid the perfect foundation for the financial part. Like, I couldn't put it together better myself. So we spoke about sweating it out, sweating in the gym so you don't bleed in the ring. We sweating, we answering questions, we revising, we dealing with objections, we doing all of those things. We're talking about emerging stronger. We're talking about saving, putting down money to ensure that our dream, our goal, our idea, you have to believe in it. And if you believe in it, you'll invest in it before you ask someone else to invest in it. Even if that investment is all you have, invest in it some way. Show that you have skin in the game, and then ensure that you tweak it and you fix it and you tailor it so that your family and your friends, not all of them will believe in it, not all of them, but the ones that matter will believe in it to the point where they're willing to invest in it and help you out, right? So we finally got into the point where we did all the prerequisites, as I would say, or as I would share with my clients. And I will say, we're not at the bank yet. We're not at the credit union yet. And I will say, according to the type of business you want to start. Now, there are certain businesses that are very capital intensive. So you really can't start it by yourself, or you really need some funding. But in most cases, when I meet with someone on the day-to-day basis, everyone or most persons have a business that they want to start that is scalable, so that they could start small and they could grow and they could build with time. And I want to suggest to you that if that is the case, after you've gotten through those first 3 steps, as I mentioned, and I hope you're taking notes, I would say get your business started. Get started. There's a song that, and I wouldn't sing, but there's this song that we love as I guess, as Christians. It says, all things are working for my good because he's intentional. I hear ladies saying it all the time. They want a man who's intentional, or a woman saying, yeah, you want some persons in your life who are intentional. Because why that is so important or significant is because we want to know what the end goal is, mine. And I will say, get started, be intentional. Write that down. Get started, be intentional. And I would say to you that the first 12 months of you starting any small business, after registration, after deciding what type of business that they wanted to start, after actually starting, and we're doing it the right way, guys. We getting registered, we're doing our books, we talking to persons, if we can't ourselves, professionals like Samuel, we're talking to Fanella, we're talking to these people and getting started in the right way. And once we do that and we've gotten started, with our finances and with the finances of either a partner, a friend, or very close family members, I would say the next 12 months are very crucial in terms of your business financing structure, the next 12 months. I want you to say 3 things with me, and maybe you might not say it. I like live audiences, so I mean, it's difficult behind the camera, but I want you to say deposits, deposits, deposits. Deposits, deposits, deposits. Write it down 3 times. Deposits.
Deposits, deposits.
Thanks, whoever that was on the thanks. Deposits. Why I say deposits are so important, especially when you're starting a small business, especially when it's a small scalable business and you're financing it yourself or the finances of the friends and the family that you have, is because the bank wants to build a relationship. Oh, let me say that differently. The bank will not lend you unless they have a relationship with you. Write that down. The bank will not lend you unless they have a relationship with you. And some people say it's unfair. Some people say, well, the bank, they're just not supportive of young people. They just don't want to see us win. And while I understand sometimes, will you get into a 5-year relationship with someone you don't know? I ask that question. Some people say yes. I say, okay. But traditionally you won't, because you want to see if this person has a good track record. They want to see the type of person that they are. And it's the same way with a banking institution. So we are at the point of getting started and we're being intentional. And I will say, let's build relationships. Business is about building relationships. And I will say this, and I hope this doesn't come across as mean, but I don't necessarily, I'm not concerned with what you do, but everything you do as a business owner has a heavy or has a keen interest on building relationships with your customers, with your suppliers, with your internal customers, and with the financial institutions. And as you build these relationships, they want to know that you have a track record. And that 12 months is very important. Now, I want to be practical about it. So let's look at someone who starts a cake baking business. Hey, I could bake cakes. I'm creative. I like the idea. I do tea plates. I do these things, and I want to start a business. So I do sweetbread, and I want to start a business. And what you do is that every day you'd go out, you'd buy groceries, you'd go to Macy's, the different places, go to College Health Foods, you'll buy groceries, and then you'll make your sweetbread and you'll sell it. What happens with a lot of small businesses is that this sale or this money that comes into the business is just reinvested again. This money never passes through the bank. This money never passes through. So there's no record that a transaction happened from a banking point of view, from a relationship point of view. And then we go to the bank and they say, hey, I know none of you. But what I'm asking you to do is, even if you have a small business, even if you have a small something and you're doing it and the intention, or you have a business and the intention is to continue, what I'm asking you to do is deposit, deposit, deposit. If you make $150 every day, I'm asking you kindly that at the end of the week to deposit all of the money you make. I'm asking, even if it means depositing it to take it back out, let's say a day or two after, because you need it for business expenses. Deposit, deposit, deposit. What the bank looks at, and based on my experience with them, what the bank looks at, they want to get a gauge of your 12 months of deposits, because that gives them an idea, not just stock, but it gives them an idea of your business activity and your business profitability in most cases, because they would see the different figures, but they'll also see the business consistency. Consistency is everything when it comes to banking. So 12 months, let's deposit everything that we make. And I'm not saying that you don't need to spend it, because a lot of customers, a lot of clients say to me, oh, Kristen, what's the sense depositing it if I need it? Like I need it to buy flour because I'm making sweetbread. And I will say, even if you're using it to do that, deposit on one end and use your bank card or ATM card to do purchases on the next end, because the bank needs to see that level of track record. So we've been to number 4. We're on step number 4, and after you've done all of that, so I don't need to go back because I've shared that with you already, but we're going forward. So we've done all these things. we've deposited, and a year has passed in a small business. And like I said, this doesn't mean to every business, but the ones that are scalable, we do that with it. We start small and we deposit and we grow and we deposit and we grow. And then we approach the bank. I will tell you this, the bank is more concerned with your monthly track record as opposed to your lump sum cash. Yes. And I say that because let's say someone has about a 1.2 million, 3 million, that is a different story. But for the purpose of this conversation, I'm not sure if anybody here has 1.2 or 3 million to put into the bank, but they are very concerned as to your monthly activity, what you're doing every single month, as opposed to you saying, hey, I have $20,000 here, I can make a deposit, I would like a loan. They're very concerned about your monthly activity. So you did everything that Kristen said, you take notes and you wrote it down. You were intentional and you kept going and you kept your business going and you made deposit even when it was not convenient. And what I will say to you, at the end of this year, 9 months, 10 months, you are now ready, from my professional opinion, to start talking to the banks, to start negotiating, to start banking on that relationship that you would have been building with them. And one of the first institutions that I think that as young people that we should look at, our parents did it and it worked for them, and we want to just level up and as we go on, it's credit unions. Now I can stay here and talk to you about credit unions all day, but I won't. But what I will do,
just to remind you, you have 8 minutes.
Not a problem. Not a problem. So when we look at credit unions or banking on a whole, I could stay here and tell you about how it works and rates and those things. But I think it will benefit everyone better if I bring someone online or bring someone on the conversation who I know and I'm admired by their ability to start business, and we're going to ask them a few questions. It's going to take about 5 minutes, a little interaction, but we're getting to see live from somebody who actually started a business, how it went and how it was for them. So what we're going to do now, we're going to talk to one of my good friends, Mr. Johan Small. So you may know him from USC, you may also know him. But Johan, we have limited time, we have 5 minutes. So tell me a little about yourself and tell me about your business.
All right. Well, I am Johan Small. I'm the owner of Jay's Barbecue and Grill, launched in 2017. So a little background on my business. When I actually decided to go into business, it was actually in 2010. So from 2010 to 2017, I undergo the saving process of saving cash every month, going towards this ultimate goal. So one of the key things about looking into business is you need to get that business mindset. You have to be able to sacrifice. You have to be able to stick to a long-term goal and make moves towards it. So my business was a high capital business. So I needed to have a long-term plan. Some businesses may be able to start small and they can scale upwards. But with my business, I needed a large capital amount to be able to create the structure, buy equipment, have working capital and things along those lines. So I needed to start my vision early. So from 2010, I picked up a minimal lifestyle. So try to save every dollar I can because I had an ultimate goal of this business venture. So one thing you would do,
I don't want to cut you off, but what I like what you're saying. So so you had skin in the game. So you started to invest, you started to put down money, you started to sacrificially put down because you understood the goal I had in mind. But what I want to ask you, we're looking at financing. So you started a business, you said it was very capital intensive. So we said that there were two types, the ones that were scalable and the ones that are capital intensive. You have a capital intensive business. What did it take you to get a lending or a loan from the bank or the credit union? And what did they require?
Right. So in relation to the credit union, they require a business plan, a list of a projected financial structure based on how much money you need to invest in capital, how much money you're looking to generate at the end of the month, so they could vet you to see if you're credit worthy. So in relation to a credit union loan, my own specifically, I had a 1% interest on the declining balance loan. This means you have to pay 1% of interest, 1% of your total capital amount, principal amount actually, at the end of each month. So if you work that out, what's that?
Did you need a deposit? Like you had to have something?
Yes, you also have to need a deposit. So after I talk about the interest, I will talk about the deposit amount. So the interest of 1% every month on the declining balance would normally work up to 7% annual interest. So normally banks will give you annual interest, but in relation to credit unions, they're a little different. They're also lenient with the payment structure. So it will average about 7%. But when you look at accessing the loan, you need to have some kind of funds deposited within the credit union, within the shares, to access a loan. So my credit union vary between having 40% and 50% of the total required loan amount.
Right.
So in simple terms, if you want $100,000 loan, you need to put down 40,000 or 50,000 in shares before you could actually access that 100,000.
Okay, good. So as we wrap up, Johan, because I know we don't have much time, I wanna ask you, is there any advice that you'll give to any business person who may be listening, who will see this recording in regards to starting their own business?
My advice would be to change your entire look on life, your mindset, to being driven to open this business. Things like your spending habits need to change. Things like your mindset, you're being optimistic, looking at different resources. All of those things need to be channeled into this business. So opening a business is easy, but opening a profitable business is difficult. So you have to look at things like scale in your business. You really need to look at how much money do you need? How much is the least amount of money you need to open your business? How much revenue your business can generate? And when you're at that point, you can scale from there. If you realize if you put in more money, you'll make more money, start to scale that business to the point that you'll be making as much as you can with as minimal investment as needed. That would be my advice.
Johan, thanks so much. I'm gonna try to wrap up as quickly as I can, but I want to thank you for sharing the information that you shared with us.
No problem.
So I just want to give you all a brief rundown on places that you can get funding from. Right, so you could get, let me just get, so some places that after you did all of that, so mindset has to be in, skin in the game, building relationships. So once you get all of those things, some of the places that you can go is to the bank, you can go to the credit union. In order to get a loan as a business, as Samuel said, you have to open a business account. So you have to be registered. You have to go through all the processes as he would have outlined. So you could do a loan. One of the quickest ways as a young business person is to actually get a credit card. A credit card gives the access to funds so you can make an initial investment, and once your business plan is solid, the bank will lend that to you. A credit card is actually a little easier to get on a loan, and the credit card is the start of building that business relationship. One thing I will say, the credit card has to be in scale or has to be in a size of the business venture. So you're not going to say, hey, I'm selling sweetbread, but I need a credit card for $50,000. It doesn't work like that. So wrapping up, so we talk about that, we talk about the banks, we talk about the credit cards, we talk about the credit unions. We want to also talk about things like Netco. Persons don't talk about it, but Netco is also a good option that are available to young persons or to any business persons, but you still have to go through everything that Samuel and Fanella said about the business plan and everything that you have to do. The last thing I would like to talk about, and I'm asking for 5 minutes extra, right? 5 minutes. And this is one that I'm personally passionate about because a lot of business persons, and I work with the, I guess, medium to large size businesses right now. And I'm thankful because the information I gained from them, I could share with the smaller businesses. And one thing I hear from them is that when you start a business, your main intention is to make a profit, right? And while I agree with you, you start a business with the intention to make a profit, but there are different things that could stop or hurt your business. And these things, Fanella actually touched on it. These things from a business standpoint are fire, loss, damage to staff, damage to employees, public liability. So I'll just give you the names, and I'll leave my contact in here so that I could probably share if someone needs more information. But in regards to business, I say to clients all the time, the more you do, the more you have, is the more you have at risk. And while it is great to have a business, and while it is fun to call yourself the boss and beat your chest, it comes with a heavy load of responsibility. And what I'm saying to you, profitability cannot be your only goal. You have to look at the things as a business owner. You have to see, you have to have foresight. It's mindset again, to see the things that could hurt, that could affect your business, and put things in place from an insurance perspective to mitigate against it. So you have different things that could come up. But the last thing I would say is the most passionate that I'm above everything else. You as a business owner or someone thinking about getting into business, there are 4 things that could happen to you, or 3 things that could happen to you that could stop you from earning any income. 1, you can pass away. 2, you can get sick. And thirdly, you can get disabled. And if any one of those things happen to you, you want to be in such a position because you've said to the man, or you said to the system, or you said to the government that I could take this on by myself. I can do it. I can provide employment. I can do all these things. And what I'm saying to you, while you take that responsibility, it comes with a certain level of risk. And the risk is, if any of those 3 things happen to you, if God forbid you pass away, if God forbid you get sick, or if God forbid you get disabled, you need to have an injection of capital that could assist you. And I say to all business or young business owners, profitability and protection go hand in hand. And if you want to make a high profit, you have to make sure that the instrument, which is you, the person that is designed to make that profit, all the good ideas and everything, can be sustained, even if any of those 3 things happen to you. So I want to say thank you all so much for your time. I look forward to any engagement or any interaction after. And let's change our mindset. Let's, like Johan said, let's plan in advance. Johan planned for 7 years to start a business 7 years later. That's crazy, right? But no, that's what it takes. And let's put things in place so that as we protect our families and as we protect, because we do business because we want to make the lives better for not just ourselves, but our family members. So as we protect them, let's make sure we have protection ourselves so that anytime an unfortunate circumstance comes up, we'll have the financial capital to deal with it and be ready for it if it does. Thank you so much.
All right. That was information again, people. Now, thank you so very much, Kristen. All right, let's do a little recap. In this segment, we learned about, if you don't sweat in the gym, you would bleed in the ring. No, serious. I was a bit taken aback when I heard it. I wrote it down. But then we're talking about business finance, right? When he asked the question, if you are going to finance you, I stopped and I thought about it for a while with my granola business. Yeah, I would. Because you know why? A lot of people are beginning to eat healthier because my business came about out of a need, a necessity. I was tired of eating oats just so I just found creative ways to eat the oats. So I tried granola, and then granola flour came about, and then I had granola banana bread with oat flour, right? So again, healthy ways of doing things. So yes, I would finance my business if I'm serious about going forward, to be quite honest with you. All right. Now Lois also talked about building a relationship, and he raised a point where you see some young people saying, people don't want to back them, but he has a very valid point. If we don't build relationship with the banks, I have a relationship with my bank. I don't know about you, because I can call my bank and talk to my bankers and say things and transfer and do all kinds of things. Even when I was thinking of investing, I asked them for opportunities, but I didn't like what they had, so I just didn't bother. But I am able to call them and speak with them. All right, so if you do not have a relationship with your bank, you have to start building. I like the idea also about putting deposit. Thank you, Sammy, for that. Deposit. And sometimes when we talk about doing our home sales, we actually keep the money to invest it again, reinvest it, as Lois said, for real. But if we put it in the bank and use our debit card or get a credit card, it actually fulfills the purpose. Now, I'm going to stop here and ask one question in the chat. It says, what are the disadvantages and advantages of using your personal account for business purposes or creating a separate account? Meaning, if you should use your account only or create a second one for the business that you are hoping to develop and grow.
Well, it goes back to something Samuel and Fanella spoke about in regards to the business registration. How is the business registered? If you have a company, as Samuel would have said, that's a limited liability company, it is advised that you do not mix the funds personally and business-wise. It is advised to open a bank account. Now, Fanella raised a good point. If you have a sole trader business, what you find a lot of sole traders doing is that they actually have one account, and that is fine. So I would say the advantages and the disadvantages come into play in regards to the registration. But also, I think business is also about being intentional. I would say that then, and I would say it now. You have to know where you see a business, and I think it's always wise from a business standpoint to think about growth. And if you're thinking about growth, separate the both. Even if it means, and hear me out, even if it means putting your deposits into your business account and then sending yourself over some as a salary because you are an employee of the business.
Nice. I like that. All right, let's continue. I'll get to another question shortly. Let's summarize again. Now, again, we asked the question, do you have skin in the game? Mindset, attitude, intentionality, fortitude, going forward. All of these words come to mind when I heard the question and the explanation. Can you get your family involved in your business? We all have to eat. Trying something new wouldn't hurt. So introducing my family to the whole idea of the banana bread with oat flour wasn't a bad idea at all. To be quite honest with you, I introduced it to my neighbor, and guess what? She's given me stiff competition with making that bread. I mean, come on, we sharing and stuff. It was just something I shared, but who knows? I'm writing down my recipe, and there are some things I will keep for myself going forward. As was said, I will keep for myself going forward. All right. Scalability now, being able to scale the business. Now, we may start off very small as we organize with the Judith's Granola and move over to Judith's Delight, right? And as we go, we can see profit, we can see income, and then we can make more informed decisions in terms of our accounts. Now, when Johan spoke, Johan said he saved for quite a number of years. Whoa, that was a focused plan he had. But for those of us who are starting our businesses out of necessity, out of COVID-19, we need that extra income coming and stuff like that. We can start small. Correct me, Lois. We can start small, and then as we grow, we can invest and we can do more. We can get the banks involved and do all kinds of things. Again, if we want to brand our businesses, we have to follow the information that Sammy has given us. All right, we must be intentional. Our next question comes here now, and it says, as a sole trader, you cannot access NIS, therefore you have no national insurance or pension. So personal insurance, he is so this was more of a statement. So he's talking about personal insurance. How would that fit in though? Let me ask this question. Let me change it around to ask a question. You are a sole trader now. You are sick, and all you have to rely on is your personal NIS. Your business is not going to benefit from it, correct?
Correct. So what I would say, like I spoke about the risk, but I also say very quickly, I see 30 people on the chat, and for all those who listen, get insurance, people. It's something that I'm passionate about. Just from the point of view, if you're a business owner, more so than ever, get some insurance for accident, some health insurance, some disability income insurance, something. Because like I said, you are the engine of your business. And if it's like driving the car without oil, and if something is to happen, because as a business owner, and Fanella spoke about it, you're not sleeping as you should, you're not exercising as you should. You move from a system where you were working 7 to about 4 for most, or 7 to 5, and you wanted to come out of that system. You move to a system now where you're working double the hours. I'm getting in your business, you work more hours, you spend more time, you're more invested. And I'm saying, with all that investment, if something is to happen, that will cripple your income. And having some insurance in place, from having, as the gentleman said, or having some accident or health insurance, or even major medical insurance to deal with the major stuff, or even having accidental insurance in the event of disability and accidents. You want to know you have something in place, so that if that happens, you know you're well covered, and you know where the financial income will come from to cover you should that take place.
Awesome. Thank you so much again, Alois, Kristen, for taking the time to be with us in Tacuma District. I know the persons who are here are very, very much interested, because the majority of them stayed. I mean, I was able to explore my granola business, so I am sure as we talk about it, others were able to do, that little box and think outside the box story that we got from the beginning with Justin. We are able to shape our ideas and move forward with it. All right, so thank you so very much. For everyone else in the chat, one announcement, a reminder, tune in next week. We're going to be doing it all over again with different topics, and the topics next week would be accounting and sales marketing. All right, invite a friend, share with your youth group, share with your community, share with your friend. Remember, if we cannot sell our ideas to a friend, then what's the purpose? So bring a friend, share the idea, because I invited my neighbor because she had another appointment, she couldn't come, but again, I am going to encourage her to come next time and be a part of this. Again, we are just 12 minutes over our time, so thank you very much for being with us. Justin, Larissa, and either of you have any comments?
No comments from me. I would just like to again thank the presenters and also thank the participants, and encourage them again to come out next week and the following weeks for the duration of the series.
Okay, one question that popped up: are we getting a certificate for attendance, participation in this for this entire month every Sunday? Just questioning.
We can definitely look into it.
Awesome. So again, people, when you're looking at building that relationship with the bank, you could present this, you attended this stuff. I mean, come on, people, this is what happens all the time. They always ask for it. I am an educator at heart, I'm sorry, because we always attend these workshops and they always give certificates of participation and stuff, and it is used towards our rank and tenure. So again, if you come and you attend, you may get a little piece of paper that you can take to the bank. Again, thank all our presenters. Christian, again, it was very, very inspiring, having Johan here to share with that practical example. And as we go forward, let us write down our ideas and share our ideas. All right, let's have a word of prayer as we close. Father, into your hands we commend ourselves. We have had a wonderful session where we looked at this whole idea of being our own bosses. We know that overall you are the ultimate But as we submit ourselves to you, we are looking at ways and means of taking care of our family, taking care of our needs, and even finding our niche in the market. Help us, oh God, as we develop our ideas outside the box, that we would be able to take the information given and that we will work with it. 7 years, 3 years out of necessity today for tomorrow, but help that we would follow the protocols in getting our branding, our names, and everything right, so that we can pay taxes, give unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. And we know for a fact, dear Lord, when we commit our idea to you, that you're going to bless us, because we believe it in our heart. We know that you love us and we know that you care for us. Bless the organizers, the presenters in a very special way, and even those who participated by just being present, and help that as we go forward and come again on next Sunday, that we would indeed be blessed, spiritually motivated, and help us to have an awesome week with you. We pray with thanksgiving in Jesus' wonderful name. Amen. Bye-bye, everyone. Have an awesome week.